OverDrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan. Panthers looking to sweep the Carolina Hurricanes tonight. Sasha Barkov will play. Bobrovsky obviously will play. Will Brooks Koepka be in attendance?
I think he will.
I guess, of course he will be, right? Yeah, he was there at the Heat game last night, too. Like, he went Panthers, Heat, I'm assuming Panthers, and then he's got a live event this weekend that he has to play in that he does not want to play in at all.
Did one of you guys say that he apologized to Aaron Ekblad?
Yes, I said
You
that.
heard that. Yeah,
Yes.
I didn't hear
I had
that.
heard that he had that's what he said. Like, Koepka, he talked about it publicly and said that he reached out. I don't know if it was via text or if he met him face-to-face.
Right.
But, like, he's a legitimate Panthers fan. He
Which
loves
is
hockey
fair,
and he
but
loves the Panthers.
It was a goof move to
It was
do the
absolutely off his
pylon
rocker,
thing, but
goofy stuff.
He admitted, he goes, like, I'm a Panthers fan, and he'd given the puck up and stuff. He was probably deep into the sauce.
That he
right?
admitted to
like,
as well, I believe.
Yeah, so hopefully they mended fences because it's kind of neat for, I think the Panthers to have a little bit of brand recognition, a guy like that in the.
He was into some monkey business the other night. He was clapping and his eyeballs were popping out for like.
Yeah, the clapping ratio was almost unheard of.
Really enjoying him.
And I don't even think the play was going on. It's like, Brooks, we're in the intermission, man.
What do you mean the play wasn't going on?
Sam Boney's out there.
Yeah, it's like, hey, Brooksy. Brooksy, I guess that's what I'm telling you, Brooksy.
They had the incident earlier this year where it was the rapper that it looked like the guy was enjoying
Oh,
himself.
yeah, where there was like a
Right
strip
beside
show or
it.
something
Yeah,
going on.
well, I think they were filming like a.
That guy got himself into some serious
They were filming
trouble
like
recently.
It was a video?
It was a video,
Okay.
but it wasn't like it looked pretty bad. And the management group was in the next box over.
Right.
Because I think Roberto Luongo and Kaber and
Yeah.
all of them were
Kodak
sitting
Black was his, and it
That's
was
his
last
name.
season is what the graphic
that-
was.
Oh,
Kodak
was it
Black
last
has
season?
got
Okay.
himself into some serious.
He was up to something there. He had
No,
ideas.
recently he's got more serious.
really?
Oh,
really?
yeah.
I don't-
Yeah, he's
Oh,
in
I didn't
trouble.
know that. Oh, my
He's-
bad. Well, hey, listen,
he's being a bad boy.
we didn't bring it up, for any purpose whatsoever. It was just naturally, a segue out of the Brooks Koepka situation.
No, I was just saying, like, there has been some unique things that
Yeah,
happened.
there's some funny business going
Yeah,
on
and it
down
was
there.
Kodak Black makes a scene at Florida Panthers hockey game.
Yeah, that was
on
wild, man.
YouTube.
That video it's pretty wild. There's a lot of money being thrown around, I think,
Yeah.
from Kodak and his buddies.
Wow. Enjoyed himself. I
Yeah.
guess.
So Craig Button will join us here in a moment. We'll get his take on the game tonight, his thought on Jamie Benn last night. Do either of these teams have a chance, Carolina or Dallas, to make it a series, let alone come back and win? And we'll ask him about the Kyle Dubas stuff because there's a report out of Pittsburgh that Kyle is in Pitt and he met with Sidney Crosby last night, which says to me it's his job if he wants the job.
Yeah, like Sid's
ownership's
not
not going to let, and Sid's not going to waste his time meeting with a prospective management type.
Yeah.
Unless the job is effectively Kyle's. And I'd love to know how long he's known he could have that job.
Right.
Like, I doubt last Friday Pittsburgh put it on his plate for the first time.
Yeah.
Hey, just so you know, now that you're a free agent, we'd love to get this done by Wednesday of next week.
Yeah.
Like, something tells me maybe
I'm sure
Kyle
there's-
was aware that it was an option.
There are back channels in the National Hockey.
He has an agent.
friends, and I'm
He
not
has
going
an
to go
agent.
there. I'm not going there. But point being is, if he ends up landing in Pittsburgh, good for him.
Yeah.
And the Leafs need to find somebody, and life will go on. Like I say, it's. I said this yesterday, and I'm so frustrated about it. Is because you're either Team Shanahan or Team Dubas. How about if you're a Leaf fan, just hope that your organization continues to head in the right direction and they find a solution to get past the second round. That's what you need if you're a Leaf fan. It's not like, oh, this guy did this and his feelings are hurt and this is family and Shanny did this. Like, yes, there's a lot of things that go on.
The only
in pro sport.
conversation that should be being had is, can a new guy come in here and change the look of their team and make them more qualified to have success in the playoffs? That should be the only conversation.
Exactly.
It's just it's It's turned into a soap opera. And I mean, we contributed to it because people are interested in it. And Hayes, you've mentioned it. A lot of people are interested in the Leafs, but that should be the only question that lies ahead.
Well, and the same question would have applied to Kyle Dubas if he was still the GM, right? The same questions and the same challenges. What are you going to do with this team? How are you going to help them get over the top?
Right.
Right? Like all that, the same. It's not like Kyle was going to show up and just re-sign all the free agents and say we're going back with the same team.
He said in his exit meeting where he brought up his family and the potential doubts, whatever you want to frame it, he said basically he said like everything's on the table, meaning I'm not committing to the core four. I'm not committing like everything, and he actually cited the Florida Panthers and Bill Zito and how bold he was to trade Jonathan Huberdeau for Matthew Tkachuk and Weegar in there. So, I mean...
Now, there's a Kawhi Leonard element to that because Tkachuk was available.
Right. No,
right?
You're right.
Like,
you're
that
right.
has to come out. Like, Bill Zito made the deal, and it's a remarkable trade.
Yes.
That has paid off in...
Right now. Yep, absolutely.
But if Tkachuk's not available, is he still thinking I got to unload Huberdeau? I don't know. Maybe he was.
No, you're right.
Maybe his plan was I'm going to move on Huberdeau and Weegar. But having Tkachuk available changes a lot. Changes a lot. Here's our director of scouting at TSN, our good buddy Craig Button, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Craig, what do you read into Kyle Dubas meeting up with Sidney Crosby last night?
Wouldn't everybody want to meet up with Sidney Crosby?
Yeah, can everyone get that meeting or only the next GM of the Pittsburgh Penguins?
Oh, I don't know. I think O could get that meeting. I even think you could get that meeting. Jamie could get the meeting.
I don't know about that,
Who are we
Craig.
kidding? Oh, I wouldn't be so sure. Hey, listen, I was listening in here. Matthew Tkachuk was not available last year. He had one more year left of restricted free agency. Brad Treliving made him available because he said he wasn't going to sign. And I think the Leafs are in the same exact spot with Auston Matthews. You better figure out if he's signing long term. I use this term. You don't want to get Tavares. And that's not a negative. When I use that term, I'm talking about going into the last year of a contract, knowing you have no control over the player, and he has all the, when the Leafs got eliminated, all said the same thing. Auston Matthews will have the hammer on July 1st. And Brad Treliving didn't want to leave himself in that spot. I'm not saying you have to trade him, but the bottom line is I don't see much difference between Auston Matthews this year and Matthew Tkachuk last year.
Craig Conroy talked about it too, Craig, where he said seeing Johnny Gaudreau walk out the door and nothing in return was quite eye-opening, and I sat in my office and thought about it for quite some time.
But what are you supposed to do, though? Calgary was first in the Pacific, and everyone thought they were going to a Cup final. What was they going to trade Gaudreau at the trade deadline because he's a pending UFA?
Well,
what are you going to do?
I think, sorry, Craig, I think they thought they were going to get Johnny.
They thought he was coming back.
Hey, listen, it got messed up the summer before when they lowballed him. That's when it got messed up. It didn't get messed up last year. It got messed up when they lowballed him when he had 1 year left on his contract.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened. And they lowballed him big time. I think it was something along the lines of a $50,000 pay increase over what he was making. A point-a-game player since he entered the league. Top 10, top 11 guys. And they lowballed him. And Johnny didn't forget it. That's what Connie's talking about.
Yeah. And if that's the case, then that adds a lot of context to the situation, clearly.
Sure.
But,
that's why. And Johnny at the end said, like, he got stubborn and he got adamant. And at the end, he said, pay me this, then I'll come back. If not, I'm not coming back. Mm-hmm. Hey, Johnny, if you think you're negotiating over machines and buildings when you're dealing with hockey players, you're nuts. If you think you can do that and you don't think they have feelings and they're not, I said this many years ago. We were in a contract negotiation with Jamie Lagenbrunner. Doug Armstrong was our assistant GM doing the contracts, and Jamie was digging in. And, you sit down and get frustrated. And we sat down and we talked about it. Bud, Doug, and myself. I said, listen, players that roll over on the ice are going to roll over in negotiations. He doesn't roll over on the ice. Let's not expect him to roll over in negotiations. Mm-hmm. And that's how Johnny felt. These aren't objects you're dealing with. These are people that have a lot of strength in their convictions and their talents, and they should be like that. So that's what happened with Johnny. And where Connie gets to, it wasn't about the deadline. It was about the summer before.
Well, so how do you balance that? Because as you just expressed, the players, they've got a backbone, they've got pride, but the team has to as well. So how do you marry the two? The team can't just say to Auston Matthews, getting back to the Leafs, blank check, fill it out. Can't do that.
I agree. Yeah, but what you need to know is what you need, Brian, is to know. And so then you can make it. I'm not suggesting you trade Auston Matthews. You just need to know. And then you can go in with all the information. It's the same thing. I'm hearing it's reported that Brendan Shanahan told the core four they're not going to be traded. That's not smart. But you don't know what's going to come along. Like, never, ever say that. You might get an offer that you go, holy geez, and now you're going to be accused of saying, well, you told me. Don't ever say that. Just say, hey, our plans are to build around you. Well, you know, I always told the players, if I can improve the team, I will do that. I don't have plans to trade you, but if I can improve the team, you'll be traded.
Craig, Craig, like with Auston Matthews, do you believe it should be a hard July 1st date, though? Or given the fact that we're 5 weeks out and there's not a manager in place, even if Auston Matthews decides to shift a little bit in his thought process and say, listen, I would like to be signed, but I would like to have it done before the season type of thing. Like, what?
Gotta have it done, Jamie.
But
you
what
gotta
do you
know.
think is a realistic expectation to have something wrapped up if there is a new manager in place, let's say next week or the following week?
I think it could be done in 15 minutes. First of all, there's no bonuses. What's the term? How much you want, Austin? Like, you know, like Nathan McKinnon just signed for $12.1 million times 8. Okay, Austin, what do you want? You want 14? Okay, we know. Now we can proceed. Now, do we sign it or no? Like, everybody makes this contract seem like it's really hard. It isn't that hard. Trust me.
Listen, I agree with you, Craig, that I believe he has the answer. He already knows what he wants to do. Like, I was talking about this on the morning show this morning. All he has known as a pro athlete is being a Maple Leaf. All he's known as an adult is living in Toronto. This guy has lived the experience of being a superstar and being the most popular player in the city for 7 years. The owner's been consistent throughout it. Shanahan's been consistent throughout it. The training staff, the team services. He knows the city. He knows what it means to be a Maple Leaf. If he wants to be a Leaf, he will be a Leaf. There's no detail in between the margins that is going to flip him between now and then. And if he doesn't want to be a Leaf, he already knows that. And it could be a Kawhi situation. I want to play in L.A. or I want to play in Chicago, and I've always dreamt of that, and now I have the opportunity, and I'm going to go, which means there's nothing the Leafs can do between now and July 1st to change his mind.
What if
he's made up his mind already?
I agree. Let's say he wants to stay here, and I believe he does. But what if he wants to max out his money, which is his right, and he goes 3 years at 15? Because that seems to be a number. Like, that is legit. I don't know the exact percentage, Craig. I think it's 20%, but depending on where the cap ends, 15 could be a realistic number of what he could ask. I don't know what he would get, but I mean, that's a realistic number of what he could ask for.
On a 3-year deal?
Well,
I'd tell him to go pound salt.
Yeah, you need more term, obviously, like 5 or 8. But
term that, because McDavid's contract runs out in 3 years, and he's at $12 million. And if Auston Matthews is trying to play the game of, like, you know, this is what I get, the cap will go up, and we can manage that. We can work with that. I mean, I think one of the Auston Matthews, even when we go back, and you know, you think about the contract he signed out of entry level, and he's performed to that contract. I mean, he's earned it. There's no question that Auston Matthews has earned it. So if that number on a longer term contract, and I don't know what long term is, I don't know if it's 5 or 6 or 8, you know, but if that number's 13.5 or 14, and I'm just putting out numbers, I'm not trying to think. I don't think that's unreasonable if you think the cap's going to go up after next year considerably. I mean, the league business now is at 5.6 to 5.8 billion.
Right.
So once we come out of this, this pandemic CBA, I'll call it the pandemic CBA, the cap's going to go up significantly, and the players should be getting what they have to look at that. And I think that I don't think it's 12.2 just because McKinnon signed for 12.2, but you got to manage that number knowing that the cap is going to go up considerably because you already know what the revenues have been, and we just have to get, when I say we, the NHL and the Players Association, they have to get through this last year of the pandemic CBA.
Yeah, and those are the margins in which there's going to be a battle.
Right.
Like everyone accepts and concedes he's going to get the highest cap hit in the league because he's up. Yep. Like, that's coming. Like the Leafs are going to pay him the highest cap hit in the league. It's going to happen. And where you're going to negotiate is him pulling for more, them pulling for less, him pulling for less years, them pulling for more years.
Yeah,
but if there's a commitment that he wants to be here, he already knows he wants to be here, and it'll get figured out.
Make it work.
And you got to make it work. Exactly. And you got to hope that he's, willing to sign longer and willing to take less. That's what you're hoping. And it's on Shanahan and company to try to convince him why that's a good reason. That's a good idea for him. And we'll find out.
And I agree with you, Brian. I think he knows, has pretty much a great idea of what he wants to do. And I'll go back to the Kenny Holland school. Kenny Holland, you'd hear about a number, and it doesn't just have to be more. It could be, hey, listen, you want your number? You want 15? Okay, good. We need 7 years on 15. You're not getting 4 or 5.
Right.
Kenny always used to say, "Oh, okay, I get it. Nick's worth $9 million. You want it for 5? Just give me a 6-year." Because you got to believe that Austin's going to play up to that.
Right.
I don't have any doubt he will.
No, I mean he's shown that consistently throughout his career. You know what you're buying, right? And again, on his side, that's what I'm trying to get across. He knows what he's getting. Like whoever the GM is, he knows who the owners are. Like these owners they're trying to win. It hasn't worked, but he cannot walk away, and I don't believe he is.
Trying to win with what?
In terms of the budget, in terms of what they allow Shanahan to spend, the amount of people that are here. The resources are what I'm talking about. It's a first-class organization. Oh, you played for them. They treat these guys like kings.
Gold.
So everything from that standpoint, he's been living for 7 years. He knows what that life is like. This isn't a guy who got here at the trade deadline and has to make a life-altering decision. He doesn't have a wife and kids who are from St. Louis and they want to go home.
Right.
Like that's not the life he's living right now. He knows everything's on the table for what it is to be a Leaf.
I agree.
And to be a superstar. There's nothing that's going to change between now and July 1st on that front.
No.
So, we'll see. News coming in here. Jamie Benn suspended for 2 games. What's your response to that, Craig?
Yeah, well, I thought last night, full game, that would be that game plus one more. I thought it merited, but it certainly merits 2. He deserves it. That was a vicious cross-check, and I love how. I wonder how long it made it. I guess that's why he didn't talk after the game last night, because he had to concoct this. I was trying to break my fall with Mark Stone's neck and head. I mean, give me a break.
Yeah,
it's so tough, Craig, because I think we could all agree he's one of all of our favorite players.
Yeah.
And it's just the timing of the game and the game situation, and you just break it down to him being a highly competitive player and his wires crossed, and he did something really stupid because that's as dumb as it gets. And
it is.
There's no other way to break it down.
Yeah. And it doesn't take away from him being a really good player. I mean, at the end of it, I think it was an errant judgment for him not to talk after the game. But just because you make an errant judgment doesn't mean you are forever, vilified. I mean, he made a mistake, and in the game, and he made a mistake by not talking after the game, in my opinion. So we move on. He's been a real top player in the National Hockey League for a lot of years for the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, he sure has. Tonight you got Game 4, Panthers, Carolina. Both series, 3-0 leads, and like the first 2 games, that was it for all 4 teams.
Well, with overtimes and all that, it could
first
go either
4
way,
collective
right?
games go to overtime.
Yeah.
Panthers win both, Vegas wins both. The rest is history. I don't picture either series going to 6 or 7 now, Craig. But can you picture that happening with either one?
To 6 or 7, no, I don't see either one going to 6 or 7. I think that the way the Florida Panthers are playing, and I know Rod Brindamore is talking about how he likes that he likes the way his team is playing. His team's lost 3 games. Okay, you can say that you can't. It's the Al Davis line. Just win, baby. Mm-hmm. And right now, the Carolina Hurricanes aren't winning, and the Dallas Stars aren't winning. And you got to find a way to win. You got to find a way to the goaltender and try to get some more chances inside if you're the Carolina Hurricanes. But can they get it to Game 5? Yeah, they can get it to Game 5, just like Toronto got it to Game 5 versus Florida. I think it's going to be really tough for either one of these teams, Dallas or Carolina, to get it to a 6, let alone a 7.
Greg, it just goes to show you the general managers, the slippery slope about success and how people can view you. I believe the Florida Panthers were watching a Pittsburgh-Chicago game, and if Chicago won, Bill Zito's probably canned, and now he's up for General Manager of the Year.
Amazing what 6 weeks can do, Ale.
No kidding.
Changes the perception. You might get two pieces of hardware: General Manager of the Year and a Stanley Cup, which is pretty impressive. But
Crazy.
you know, it's fickle, right? It does become fickle, but in the same breath, you know, that's where professional sports have come. You know, we used to sit back years ago, maybe not years ago, and look at the NFL and go, oh boy, you know, Black Monday, coach gets fired after 1 year, coaches get fired in their first year. The NHL's like that now, and the NBA's like that. There is a real pressure to have success, and when you're brought in, you better have success, and you better have it in pretty fast fashion. Because if you don't, you're right, Jeff. You're gonna be looking for work.
Yeah. Well, the flip side of that is if Pittsburgh wins, they're in. And what if they go on a miracle run? Then maybe Hextall and Burke are still employed.
That's true.
Right? Like it could be the opposite. Like everything's all good there. And I think I saw someone point out that Chicago, with those points, if they didn't get them, they wouldn't have been third last, which means they wouldn't have won the lottery because they wouldn't have been slotted with those lottery ball numbers.
Oh my God.
Like all of this all of this happened from one game.
Stuff, yeah.
Pittsburgh puking against Chicago late in the season led to Bedard going to Chicago, Pittsburgh out, Bill Zito up for the executive of the year, and Bobrovsky is the greatest goalie of all time. So
6 degrees of separation, bro.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, really. While you think about, you know, the vagaries, right? The vagaries of the fork in the road, you know.
That's it.
And that's what it is. There's no other way to put it. And there's certain things that are out of your control.
They're absolutely out of your control. All right, Craig. Always great catching up with you, buddy. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, you guys have a great day. Thanks.
You too. There he is, Craig Button, our TSN Director of Scouting, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Build your next dream Toyota at Maple Toyota and check out Maple Toyota's pre-owned inventory arriving daily. It's time to Toyota. Visit mapletoyota.com. Yeah, Craig's, he's spitting some fire with the Matthews and Leaf stuff, and he's right that they need an answer out of him.
Yeah,
like
you're right.
Tkachuk gave the Flames an answer, clear cut.
Right.
Guys, I'm not signing here.
Right.
So then they had to react to that news.
Almost as a favor, not a slap in the face.
Exactly.
Like,
No,
don't even think about it. I'm going to do you guys a favor, and don't piss away a year with me here because I'm not coming back.
Yes.
It's almost a favor,
And I think
as much as people don't want to look at it like that.
Exactly what it is.
But it's respect. Like talking to Keith Tkachuk, he said Matthew loved his time there, but he wanted to move on, and that's it. Like it's basically a scenario where they showed Calgary the respect that, hey, he's not going to sign long-term here, so we're going to get out in front of it, give you options so that they're not jammed up. Like, to me, he spent 9 years with that organization. It's not like he put in, a year and a half and didn't like the city.
Kidding.
He was drafted, developed there, and had some great years and a great time there. It was his right to move on. He did. And end of story. He's done a great job in Florida. They traded him. I think we all can agree that Jonathan Huberdeau is probably going to have a bounce-back year in some capacity next year. I don't think he's going to get 56 points again. There's going to be a new coach there, new management, obviously. I think Huberdeau's probably embarrassed by his season last year. A lot of guys in that dressing room should not be happy with their production.
Of course.
So
But
I think Calgary will have a bounce back.
the reports that Brad Treliving is in on the Leaf job,
Yeah.
right? And likely at the top of the list.
Yeah, I mean,
If he comes in, if it's deja vu, hopefully it doesn't get to that point. But that would be pretty wild. What a way to start your tenure. If you're on the clock and Matthews calls up and goes, guess what? Matthews Tkachuk is calling you right now. I'm out of here.
I don't even want to.
And here's my 6 teams, so you go work out a deal.
Not the best.
Not the best.
No.
Let's hope that
exactly.
does not end up happening. But I believe he's made up his mind one way or the other, because he's been here 7 years. He's been the most popular player on the team since day one. There's no new experience. There's nothing new on the horizon.
Right.
And whether it's Dubas, Treliving, or anyone else, I believe they're going to come in and pitch the same thing. We're here to win. We're going to do everything we can to win,
Yep.
and we want
I
you to
don't
be the
even know,
man.
like if you don't even need a pitch like this, like you said, Hayes, this guy, as good as he is, like he goes to his mailbox on July 1st and picks up $11 million out of it. Like it should be just kind of a mutual respect where it's like, let's try to get this thing right and win. That's kind of all you're hoping for, isn't it?
And that's it, though. That's
you know what I mean? Like, as much as he's a great hockey player, he scored 60 goals. He won an MVP. Everybody buys the jersey. He's also gone to the mailbox every July 1st and got $11 million. So it goes both ways, man. Like,
and that's exactly what's going to continue. Again, he's getting a full no movement, full no trade, full signing bonus of huge money every July 1st. Like, that's done. There's no haggling over that.
No.
It's not going to fall apart because they're like, no, we're not giving you a no move.
No, and
like,
for what he does on the ice, he deserves to go to the mailbox and get that. But it's just a mutual thing. Let's just try to make this work and get better. If there's any monkey business, then you cut ties, just like Craig said.
I don't think I agree. I think it's just this is what I would like to try and find some common framework. You know, hey, I want a little shorter. We'd like a little longer. I'd like a little more. We'd like a little less. Like, that's basically what it is.
Exactly. Like, it's a massive life decision when you want change.
Right.
Then it's stressful. Then it's, man, I really got to think about it. Wow, where do I want to go? I'm not trying to downplay it, but like, you guys can speak to it. You lived it. My impression speaking with athletes is it's not that complicated. Oh, I like it here. I want to play here.
Yeah.
Okay, then we'll figure that out. Like, it's not like, oh, I really got to think about, like, well, what am I going to do about this? Like, it's not like that. He's just going to continue living the life he's been living for 7 years.
Well,
like, it's not a change. It's just I like it, so let's keep going. If it's I want to change, then it's stressful.
Right.
Then it's I got to pick where I'm going. What are the options? I got to move.
Yeah.
The PR, it's going to look ugly. They're going to hate me here. Like, that's different.
Yeah.
There's no stress in let's work out the biggest deal in team history.
You mentioned like that I played here, and to think that going to the mailbox, picking that up, being a Leaf 60-goal scorer, I don't know if anything could be better than that. But I'm not him. He might desire something else.
And exactly.
But to me, that's the king daddy topper of all.
If he wants to stick it out, that's the thing. If he wants to stick it out and try and win here. Like, that's all I heard out of Draisaitl and McDavid is like, we want to win here.
Well,
that's their year end was like,
right.
I don't care about anything else. We'd like to win here. We think we got the group to do it. Like,
yeah, it's unfinished business here.
You know, and that's the thing. Like, they've got a lot of work here to do to get to that where they, multiple rounds. They got to the second round, but it didn't fare that well. Now you got to go back at it, but the team's going to look a lot different outside if they keep that core four, but they've got lots of flexibility, lots of free agents.
Money, you got free agents, you got, exactly.
Yeah,
lots
on the plate for the new GM, whoever it is.
Whoever it's going to be. Yeah, and again, Dubas down there in Pitt, very well, like, that's a tough job down in Pittsburgh, man. It's a tough gig. And listen, Kyle, if he takes it on, good for him, and let's see what he's got down there. But it's a tough gig down in Pitt.
Yeah.
Darren Dreger still to come just after 6 o'clock. The Jays back in action. We'll continue to look ahead to that. And we got the Charles Schwab down at the Colonial. We got some PGA picks brought to you by our friends at TaylorMade a little bit later this afternoon. Gerry's percentages. Gerry's coming up. We'll do that next.
You're going to want to hear this.
Gerry's percentages.
I don't love being commissioner as much as I used to. I actually love it even more.
That's the voice of a Hall of Famer.
Are you kidding? Have you been out drinking?
You're all pigeons. Filthy, filthy pigeons.
It's Gerry. Gerry.
All right, Gerry's percentages. I'm sure Gerry's not overly ecstatic with both series, being 3-0 and not that compelling.
Gerry loves the Sun Belt atmosphere.
That's valid. This is the borderline expansion cup, and it's the Sun Belt Cup. Like, that's what's coming. We could be looking at Florida, Vegas. I
know.
Wow. Florida,
and
Vegas.
We're going to cover it
final
for SportsCenter and OverDrive.
Yeah, I don't see why the wheels wouldn't be in motion on that. I'm sure they are. I'm sure it's happening. And maybe Gerry's someone that could pull some strings. He does have a lot of power, right? He does have a lot of say and a lot of ability to sway people in terms of what might happen. All right, let's stop wasting time here. Let's get to the takes. Let's hear from Gerry.
Gerry when it comes to the core four in Toronto, and a little birdie told me they're all coming back. And this little birdie has never, ever led Gerry astray.
This guy's an idiot.
A little birdie that
Told
never
Gerry.
It never leads him astray. This birdie is batting 1,000 in terms of the information being relayed towards Gerry. Saying core four, they're coming back 100%. Yeah. They're back next year
for sure, locked in.
Yeah, according to Gerry. What's your percentage?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Well, is the percentage what I think's going to happen, or what I would do if it was me?
No, what you think will happen. You're not running the operation.
It was you.
I'm going to say 20% that happens. I honestly wouldn't see how you could possibly think that is a good idea. 20% they all return. I don't care what Gerry says.
Okay. 20%.
You've won one round with them in a bunch of years. Why do you think it would be necessary to run it back with them? Why? Like what why would you need to see it again, Brian?
Well, it's difficult to trade the guys you want to trade. You know, I'm playing devil's advocate. Maybe your feel for you're going to lose the trade, right? Like,
really?
how can you win the trade?
Give me an example of difficult trading a guy.
Well, John Tavares is the guy they'd probably like to move on from. It can't happen. He's got a full no move, full no trade. He's not going to waive. He's not going anywhere. So that's 25% of the core four that is an immovable object.
You know that's not the guy you would want to move to have an impactful trade on your organization. You know that's not the guy.
In terms of return, you're right. But getting $11 million off the books, that can make the impact you need as well. You can use the $11 million.
Chewing on that. I think chewing on that like you were chewing at the halfway house at the National Noodles. I got to tell you this before you continue. It happened again where the guys go, you guys have to grab something. And I said, no, I'm fine. I brought my breakfast. I looked down. I could feel laser beams at me. Hazy B is looking at me. He wanted a muffin so bad. Go ahead, Noodles.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had
croissant.
to tell you that.
It was actually an unbelievable croissant.
And you didn't get one?
I got one. I worked my magic.
Did you put it on his, what's it called?
It's disgusting. Like, he's always Basil's. Just grubbing around for food. Like,
dude, you pull out bacon and egg sandwiches like they're in your pocket like somehow. This guy, we're driving down 5. He's messing around with the back of the car. I'm like, what's he doing? Is he looking for a club head? He's got his ball back there. He pulls out a bacon and egg McMuffin.
It's Captain Caveman.
I make my breakfast and I put it in a bag, you idiots.
God. I'm sitting here. I'm so hungry. I'm driving in the car. This guy's mowing down on a homemade bacon and egg sandy.
It's turkey in there. Anyway, okay, Noodles, continue. Your percentage.
I'm higher on this. I'm 63%. This isn't what I would do, but what I'm saying is the new manager, everything the way it could shape up, I think it's over 50%. And I think the new manager will try and shape, other players or other situations on the roster. I mean, I know Morgan Riley, I believe, has a no move.
Yes.
But he's an attractive player. Now, he would have to be asked to go, all of that type of stuff. But I think everything's on the table, and that defensive core needs upgrading. Like that's the one thing for me. If I'm looking at all these teams, the one consistent thing, as you go deeper in the playoffs, there's a rock star defenseman that's helping that process along, or more, or a defensive core that is deep and mean and has all the attributes to help you get deep. So,
Noodles, it's a great point, and I look and I watch that Pietrangelo, how good he still is, and how St. Louis, they could have got him at some kind of discounted price or not how they walked away from that and went on to Falk and Torrey Krug. It's insane.
Yeah,
well,
it's insane.
By all accounts, he was up for maybe coming home.
You're right.
Big city boy, maybe he wanted to be a Maple Leaf.
But that being said, I still believe the number is, what did I say? Low 60s, 64, I'll say. That's what I believe, because the new manager might not want to mess with everything and just go, I think I like those guys. And again, the only other thing, I'm getting long-winded here, the status of Nylander. What does that guy want for money?
That is different. Because, like, if Matthews wants to sign, they're signing him.
Matthews 100%.
Exactly.
They're not doing
He's
anything.
not going anywhere, nor should he. Tavares is not going anywhere.
So there's 50% right there.
That's gone. You're talking two guys, Nylander and Marner. I don't know if they have the stomach to move Marner. I don't.
Yeah,
that's the guy that's going to get a massive return, regardless of how people feel about this guy.
What does
he
that
puts
even
up
mean they don't have the stomach to do it? Like, you haven't won. I don't understand.
Because he's
And
the
I like
homegrown
Mitch.
guy that sells jerseys that the kids love, and he's on Instagram and TikTok, and that's what I think I mean by that.
Well, what are we talking about here? Instagram or TikTok, or competing and winning a Stanley Cup?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Mitch has to go or Mitch is the guy that has to go. I love the way he plays. He's an unbelievable talent. But sooner or later, something has to change. Or if you want to just roll it back, we'll be back here doing the same thing again.
Yes.
And you just said something, Brian, where it's like, can't find the money. Sooner or later, you got to set yourself up during the middle of a season sometime where you say, oh, I can make a trade and get a quality guy that kind of has a ticket to him, but we can actually afford it.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
that's what, again, retrospectively, it doesn't matter now. But if Pietrangelo wanted to come here and they needed to find the money, that's when they should have traded one of these guys.
Right.
That's when someone should have disappeared. And he said, clearly, that's a more important player.
Right.
And it's an integral piece that changes up the dynamic. But that's gone, so it doesn't matter.
So, anyways, I got long-winded, but I'm saying 64% because I think it's.
I'm kind of in the middle. I'm going to say 49%. I'm just in the minority.
Not what I believe. I just think
49%.
Not what I would do.
49%.
I would move
just
one.
a croissant under 50%.
Yeah,
minus
bacon and egg.
64 at guess what tournament? The No Balls Open.
The Turkey and Egg Sandy Open?
No, the No Balls Open.
Oh, okay. Gerry, what else do you have?
Everyone knows Dubas is en route to Pittsburgh, but no one believes he can turn that mess around, except Gerry, because the Pens will make it back to the Cup final in the next 3 years.
Ooh. So Gerry, apparently everyone knows Dubas is off the pit. That's a lock, according to Gerry. And he's got the Penguins returning to glory back in a Cup final in the next 3 years.
I'm going to say 59%.
What?
Are you kidding me?
Dude, maybe they get a goalie.
Well,
Maybe
Tristan
they
Gerry's
do
there.
some-
They got to sign him.
He's a UFA, is he not?
Yes.
Why would they want to? Why would they want to re-sign him? Why?
Well, who are you gonna? Is it Casey
I don't know.
Smith?
But why has it got to be him? It
Maybe
makes me
Matt
sick.
Murray.
Teams that are saying, "Oh yeah, we got to get it. We got to get that goal." He's been terrible.
Yeah, he was terrible last year. This past season, the year before, he was an all-star. Like, he's pretty damn good young goaltender, 27 years old. Like at some point, you do need goaltending in this league. That's the one thing. Like,
Okay, well, I'm going to hold you to it when I'm watching them in the playoffs this upcoming season.
well, you just said 59%. They better sign Gerry. That would be one of the things I would do. Because
I got
not,
0% on this.
I'm 6% on this.
0%.
I'm 6%. I'm giving a sliver of a chance of
You guys
Sidney
want
and
to
the-
dump on Sid and the gang? Go ahead. I'm
not
not doing
dumping
it.
on Sid and the gang. I'm
dumping on Sid and the gang.
No, you dump on
there's
me with the
16
sandwiches in the
teams.
back, and now
you
you're
dumped
dumping
on
on
me
the
with
pens.
the croissants and the muffins.
There's 16 teams in the East. And guess what? Some of them are getting better. Buffalo, Detroit, Ottawa. Maybe Boston takes a step back. Maybe Florida does. Maybe the Leafs take a step back given the moves that they have to make this summer.
Yeah, of course.
Bottom line is there's some pretty damn good teams out east here. And I'm not just hitching my wagon to the Pittsburgh Penguins because Kyle Dubas is potentially going there.
Well, that's a tough gig. Like zero, I can't. Let me rescind 0%. I'm not going to say 0 because nothing is 0, especially when you still have the semblance of a good team there.
Exactly.
Or the potential
It's
for
tough
one.
because you're
But-
going to a scenario that could be the beginning of the end.
Well,
If you remember before Sid got there, they almost closed the doors on that whole operation.
right.
It was a mess.
Sid and Gino played every game this season, and they missed the playoffs. That would suggest the end is already here. Like, they missed the playoffs, and Sid had a year. Yeah. Sid played really well, and
You watch
every
their
night.
goaltending? You watch their
No,
goalie?
I
The
did.
goalies
Yes,
didn't give
goaltending was
their
an
goalies didn't give him a chance to win.
They didn't. They're
You don't miss the
goaltending
playoffs because of like goaltending alone.
No, I
like
agree. They weren't good
obviously
enough.
the goaltending wasn't great, clearly, But the idea that if they had great goaltending, they're an upper echelon team.
Oh, so we always say it's a goaltending league and you need goaltending, but now we're just going to dismiss that
I'm not dismissing
and go back
it.
and get a croissant and say it doesn't apply here?
I'm not dismissing it. I understand the importance of goaltending. I get, and obviously that factored in more. That's the primary reason they missed. But what I'm saying is I don't think they were a good goalie away from being a cup contender.
Yeah, we're talking cup final.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we're getting to the
playoff.
extreme.
I would give you 50% on playoffs in the next 3 years. I wouldn't give you 58% you said on cup final.
I say Sid's going to take him on a charge one more time.
I would
I'd
love to see it too. I love
to see it.
I love Sidney Crosby. By all accounts, Sid is listens to our show.
Yeah, listen, I don't want another Peter DeBoer situation
he
on
may
my
hate
hands.
your guts. Who knows what?
Although Pete treated Jamie Benn a lot differently last night, I made a mistake. I said I thought Seattle was going to win. Yeah. Pete was quick to come on here and bury me. Ben makes a mistake, and he goes, I'm not going to bury this guy.
Because he has respect for Ben.
He does have respect.
That's uncalled for.
Yeah.
That's uncalled for.
Well,
you know what? You want to hear the truth? There was a croissant available that was...
No, hang on, back up a sec. Why are you you're all in my business? What do you care if I'm reaching back? I made my breakfast at home.
Because I thought you were going to pop your shoulder out. That's why.
But you thought I had 15 Big Macs stuffed in my golf bag, and that's how you're carrying on. It was just you
had a bacon and egg sandy, and I was hoping...
And a banana.
Yeah. Okay. And I was, where was mine? Why didn't you pop one in for me?
No, come on, man.
Why not?
I just it comes back to the argument of the trunk. Like if you went and looked in this guy's car, I have there might be a bacon and egg sandwich in there from 6 years ago if you had a 6-year-old car.
No, next Jerry's, we got one more. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, we'll save the rest of Jerry's for 6:30. All right.
We did 2.
I understand. We started talking about croissants and your bacon and egg sandies. I mean, it threw us off, and we're talking. I don't even know what we were talking about. The core 4 and.
Well, I do want to say
we got a lot more at 6:30.
Tristan Gerry, his record was 24-13-7. He had a .909 save percentage and under 3.
So that's not the
numbers
issue.
Weren't
they didn't miss that. Obviously, it could be better, but they were not a great goalie away from being.
He was above league average. .909 was above league average for save percentage.
Joe from the bridge, get some highlights of him coming down the stretch, please.
Oh, believe me, it didn't. There were times where he needed a save. Don't get me wrong, but I think that's
a pretty good reclamation project, though, isn't it? Is that if he gets to the open market, someone will grab him.
Oh, I think
and
he's
hope
a good
that he really gets a rocket.
Absolutely, like Tristan Gerry is.
Maybe the Leafs look at that. Maybe you let Samsonov Wall. Although you got Murray here, I don't know.
Well, they've
Joseph
got
Wall.
I mean, Wall's going to be a player. I think you got to deal with the Murray situation. That's a package.
That's another thing.
That's a package.
You talk about a drag bunt. Thanks for coming out.
That's a package with a draft pick to make that go away.
Yeah. Hey, Kyle left you a present. Matt Murray's contract.
Yeah.
Go deal with that one.
That is the biggest drag bunt in the history of drag bunts. That starts when you get out of your car, right through the salad and bun line, and right to the end of the pasta dish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right to the dessert.
That's
part.
possibly crossing the aisle to the dessert part.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Jerry's continues, I guess, at 6:30. Why not? We got a lot more, right? We got a bunch. Jerry's got a lot more.
Yeah.
So he's coming up again at 6:30. Dregs will join us soon. Jay's back in action tonight. PGA picks still to come. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, OverDrive continues. We've got our PGA picks coming up, brought to you by TaylorMade. It's actually a great field. Great field. You got Scheffler playing again. You got Spieth, Finau, Rick Hovland, Colin Morikawa, Michael Block. Michael Block.
That's our guy.
All right, you got to remember that. Who's going to have the stones to pick Michael Block?
His name from an email today from our buddy, Uncle Nicky, is Blocky.
Blocky, yes.
Oh, Blocky.
Blocky's our boy. Yeah, well, TaylorMade, right? He's got the TaylorMade clubs going. We saw what's in the bag. They sent us, he's got that thing cooked. He's a TaylorMade athlete, much like you and I, right? I think we're all kind of in the same boat. played the Nash, broke 90.
So when the
at
guy
Nash.
offered him 50, excuse me, 50 grand for the 7-iron, did he accept it?
I don't believe he did.
I don't think he did.
I think he said, I got to have this. I got to play with it. Like, he wants to continue to play with it, and maybe he thinks he can get more in the future. I'd be selling that thing in a heartbeat.
Take it.
Yes. Like, you got to strike now,
but
man.
aren't you married to like certain clubs?
Yes, but for 50 grand, Noodles, you can get a divorce.
I get
right,
that.
and you can find another 7-iron. TaylorMade will hook him up with anything he
Take it to some
needs.
shop, like my buddy Parrish has got a shop on Bloor Street, Golf Gallery. Make it look like the old one, for crying out loud.
Yeah, that's where you call up TaylorMade and say, I'm selling this thing for $50K.
Dude,
Yeah.
but did you see
Can you
his
hook me
old
up?
one? It was all gooned up. It
Yeah, he's
had
got-
like black tar on it. It was like an old baseball bat.
It was the Arthur's Herbe of
Yes,
of
it was an
clubs.
Herbe 7-iron.
I think he's got tape on it because it was like cracked or something.
Yeah. Artie Herbe would sit on the plane with his legs crossed and sew his pads.
Exactly.
Dragged you to a cup final.
Yeah.
Those
He did.
pads. Anyway, final hour coming up. Darren Dreger, Jerry's percentages continue. Our picks brought to you by TaylorMade. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and soon to be up on TSN 2.